Well, look who is back. They've let me loose with the microphone again. I might never leave.
Welcome to Skip the Queue, a podcast for people working in and working with visitor attractions.
Can I just say that you pretty much called me a queen just before we began recording this, and I think I wear that crown appropriately today.
Podcast royalty.
She is back where she belongs, in her rightful place, on her throne, with her microphone. Wow, thank you. You two have been cooking up something interesting, and I am back here to tease it out of you both today. But because I am in charge, again, I get to do things my way, which means Icebreakers are back on the cards. Yay! I'm so happy to be back here doing this. Right, first
I've never
question.
done one of these. This is so in all of the time I've been. I know.
Even when we did
the there, Paul.
I can't believe this. Even when we did the sessions that were us two, the episodes that were us two.
You didn't ask me Icebreakers.
I am.
Dodged that bullet for 2.5 years.
That's outrageous. Okay, well then we'll start with you. I would like to know who's your favourite podcast host, and why is it me?
Wow. Well,
No, genuine question. Okay, so I mean, obviously it is me. We could put that aside.
Yeah. So put a pin in that one.
Put a pin in that. So listen, I have seen in since we started Skip the Queue back in 2019. Goodness, yes. July 2019. There's been lots of different sector podcasts that have kind of popped up, and they are brilliant. And I'm all for more and more niche podcasts. They are the best kind of podcasts. But I want to know, aside from Skip the Queue, what is your second favourite sector podcast?
Oh, Attraction Pros is the one for me. I do like listening to the guys at Attraction Pros.
They are good. I would say that they were around before Skip the Queue, so they're like, for me, they're the ones that we are looking up to in terms of the podcast. Oh, podcast beef. Josh is going to hear this. He's not going to be happy. Andy, same question to you. What other podcasts do you listen to sector wise?
So that's a really difficult question because, well, it's not. The answer's none. I don't listen to sector podcasts very much. I've become a politics junkie, or I've been a politics junkie for years.
Okay.
So my podcasts are just full of politics podcasts, which in the past 2 weeks I've stopped listening to. I've done completely because the world of politics is just such a mess.
It's a car crash. Yeah.
Podcasts out of date within 2 minutes of having been published. So,
what would be normally your go-to, like the regular one that you would listen to?
Me being a reluctant Brexit, a reluctant Remainer. It's all the stuff that hangs over from that. So there's Oh God, What Now? Quiet Riot, the two Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart. I can't remember what that one's called right now. But
The Rest is Politics.
Rest is Politics, yeah. Cool.
What about the one with Ed Balls and George Osborne?
I tried it and haven't really got into it.
Yeah, so I'm the opposite way round. So that's the one I like, and I don't like Rest is Politics. And it turned out that actually George Osborne is a human being, and I quite like the guy. I'd go for a drink with him. Who knew?
Wow, this is new news.
Yeah.
I wonder if he'd like to go for a drink with you.
I'm probably delighted to hear that when he listens to this.
When these politicians, when they give up their day job and they return to normal life, and then you hear them on programmes, they're actually quite relatable. And you think, why could you not capture that relatability when you were actually doing the job?
Well, it's actually a key part of the job, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the only thing you need to be good at as a politician.
You would think, could make a good politician then. I'm just generally nice to people.
Your policies, Kelly? What would you do? What would you bring in?
Oh, new policies. That's a very good question. I have one about mobile phones and people walking and looking at them at the same time, which I would ban, because I generally just want to kick people. You know when you're like on the tube and you've got to get somewhere and you've just got people walking up the stairs in front of you, like whilst looking at their phone like this, and I want to swipe their legs away. There's something around that I think would be useful. It would make me happy anyway.
Absolutely.
Make some other people happy too. Who knows? Oh, good. Okay. Glad that we went there. Second question. This is a good one. It's coming up to, well, I mean, it's already started, isn't it? Conference season has kicked in well and truly. You're at NFAM. That's really the start of it. I am going to be at the Association for Cultural Enterprise Conference in March. So looking forward to seeing everybody. I'm going to be at the awards do as well. I've been judging the awards this year.
Have you really?
Yes. There was a lot in my category, I'm not going to lie. That took a lot longer than I was expecting it to. But it was really fun. And the short list of finalists is out now if you haven't seen it. And it's an amazing list. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing who the winners are. But I would like to know, what is the worst food you've ever been served at a conference? Because let's face it can be a bit dodgy, can't it?
Here we go first.
Andy, you can go first.
So this sticks in my mind. It was an awful experience. We were at Port Sunlight up in, actually not that far from Liverpool, where the ACE conference is going to be in March. And it was pretty soon after lockdown. And it was almost like the caterers had just looked in the freezer to see what they got left over. And
freezer tapas.
No other conference had been there. And then just put it all out at the same time, and it was all beige, and it was just such a mixture.
Hang on a minute. Let's not diss beige food, because I'm not going to look. I am a bit of a fan of beige food. So if there was a conference that basically the lunch was made up of like kids' party food, that would be the best conference I'd ever been to. Like sausage rolls.
As long as you can have half a grapefruit covered in tin foil with cocktail stick with cheese and pineapple stuff in it.
No pineapple, I'm allergic. That would kill me. But cheese, yes.
Tinned pineapple.
Tinned pineapple is actually okay, weirdly. That wouldn't kill me. So yeah, I would be down. I know it's weird. I know it's just fresh pineapple. Who knew?
So middle class.
But still loves a sausage roll and a Scotch egg.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
But that's fine. Sausage rolls and Scotch eggs were absolutely no problem. It's when you mix them with onion bhajis and samosas and Chinese spring rolls, and this whole fusion was just. It wasn't fusion food. It was.
That sounds like every Boxing Day lunch I've ever been to.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. It actually sounds like my dream conference. Paul, over to you.
Conferences that serve you food that you cannot eat with one hand.
Yes.
Yeah. So pasta with a sloppy sauce. Why would you do that to me?
Why?
I mean, I am not the best eater. I need a bib at most times. But if I'm out in public, I don't want garlic bread. I don't want saucy food. I want stuff I can shovel quickly and politely. I mean, as politely as you can shovel food, but you know.
I'm with you on this. Like, what is wrong with the trusty sandwich?
Yeah.
Genuinely, I don't feel like we need to push the boundaries of conference food. I'm happy with stuff that you can pick up with one hand and eat comfortably. Stuff that, you know, you're confident that you can sit, because let's face it, you get quite up like close and personal to people at conferences, don't you? When you're trying to, you know, have a little chat. Yeah. Let's not be overloading them with garlic or anything.
Delightful.
You know, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I keep going back to the whole party food. I think kids' parties have got the right idea. Party rings, sausage rolls, Scotch eggs. If we can make that happen, we're on a win.
That you can put in your mouth like a walrus.
Oh, you know my party trick. Brilliant, guys. Okay, listen. Unpopular opinions are back for one time only. So, Andy, what you got for me?
So, mine's food related.
Excellent.
And it's probably more unpopular in my house than it is anywhere else. But Chinese food is massively, massively overrated.
Behave.
Yeah.
I'm very on the fence about this one.
My kids love it. But
the
things they love are all the stuff that come with the sugar sauces. So lemon chicken, the sweet and sour chicken balls, all that kind of stuff.
So we mean...
I don't need dessert and main meal at the same time.
So we're talking English approximations of Chinese
Absolutely.
food from a takeaway. Yeah.
Nothing very sophisticated, I'm afraid.
I feel like that is all the stuff that I used to like, but now if you served me up a big plate of all of that stuff, it'd be like, oh God, I'm gonna really struggle with this. I'm gonna be up in the night, aren't I? Because old.
I'm basically just a 9-year-old because it sounds like my idea of heaven. Sweet and sickly, deep fried. What's not to love?
Okay. All right. Well, let's see how our listeners feel about the whole Chinese debate. Paul, what about you? What you got?
The best radio station is, in fact, Radio 4.
I agree with you 100%.
So that's not a controversial opinion. I thought that was going to be massively controversial. They've been podcasting for about 100 years. They podcasted long before there was really a podcast. It's all just spoken voice. So if I got trapped on a desert island, my luxury would be a Radio 4 on a radio to listen to, because there's always a variety of stuff that you can listen to.
Do you not listen to any of the other?
I quite like Greg James in the morning.
I love Greg. I am a Radio 1 fan.
So have you listened to Greg on Radio 4?
No, I know he does do that, but no.
Yeah, he's got a programme on Radio 4 where he delves through the BBC archives, Rewinder it's called, and it's brilliant. I love it. It's Greg James funny combined with the novelty of listening to new things on Radio 4.
Okay, all right, well, I'll give that a go. Yeah, I'm not fully sold on the Radio 4. I do like it, but...
if I've got 3 or 4 hours in the car, up to a meeting, and then another 3 or 4 hours to drive back afterwards, I'd rather listen to Radio 4 than Radio 1, because I won't get repeats of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely am with you on that, and I would not listen to Radio 1 for that length of time for that reason. Well, I did used to like, what was the pop quiz? Was that on Radio 4? No, that was BBC.
That's Radio
2.
That's 2, wasn't it? So I'm getting all my radios mixed up.
Get your old person radio mixed up.
Yeah. If I'm honest, I quite like a little bit of magic every now and again, but that really does age me. It's quite gentle, calming. When you've had a 3.5-year-old toddler screaming at you in the car for a while, it's quite nice to put something neutral on.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Thank you for indulging me.
That was enjoyable.
You're welcome.
Of course it is. That's why she likes doing them.
You're welcome. There was a lot of food-related stuff, but yeah.
There was.
Food-orientated.
All right, listen, let's get to the good stuff. I mean, everyone likes that bit. Let's face it, they've missed it. They want me back. But let's get to the actual root of why we're supposed to be here.
I have another unpopular opinion that sort of leads in as a segue to where we were going.
Oh, for God's sake. Who's in control of this podcast? Me. Go on then.
So this unpopular opinion is that if you're an attraction operator, you don't want a ticketing system.
Excellent segue.
Even we were just talking about conferences. There are sessions in conferences, and one of my favourite conferences I go to is the Ticketing Professionals Conference.
That's very good.
But there are sections in each of these conferences on how to find a ticketing system, how to choose your ticketing system supplier, how to get a better relationship with your ticketing system. And in my opinion, an attraction operator doesn't want one. They want happy guests who are giving them lots of money to come and have great experiences. They don't care how it happens.
It's true. Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. But are you dissing ticketing professionals and saying basically the sessions you're putting on are rubbish, no one gives a fuck?
No. There's a certain section of society that really enjoys it. So I describe this as when I go to B&Q to look for a drill, I'm one of the geeks that actually wants to understand how the drill works and how fast it is and all that kind of stuff.
God.
The majority of people who are going to buy a drill don't want a drill, they want a hole.
Want a hole.
Yeah. So as an attraction operator, you don't want a ticketing system. You want happy customers who are giving you lots of money and having great experiences. Okay,
right. So that was a great segue into where I was going. Look, you two have been thick as thieves for a good few months, if not longer. And there's been something cooking up between the two of you. I have had a little bit of privy to understand what's been going on. But this is the first time that you've actually got to the point of talking about it openly and publicly, isn't it? And that's why you've got me back on, basically, is to grill you on what you're doing. So spill up, fess up. What have you been doing in the background, the two of you?
Well, this all came about after a lunch that Andy and I had in August of last year, where we were putting the world to rights and figuring out what do attractions need to do with their ticketing, what do they need to do with their websites, and what could we do to try to improve things. And Andy had thought lots about this stuff, and he prepared me. It was quite the lunch. He prepared me a PowerPoint presentation for lunch.
Wow! Like when you want your mum and dad to get you a dog.
Can we make this happen?
Yeah, it was his wish list, and clearly this PowerPoint has been worked on for many years because there was lots of wishes, lots of ideas, and being the developer at heart that I am, I'm like, well, how hard can that be? It's only a website. Surely we can do this. Surely we can do it. We've done bits of it before, and we started to think about where we could go with stuff that had long predates me. Yeah, there are elements of Rubber Cheese that you and WAG were working on for years prior to the merger with Carbon 6. But it's been a really challenging market, and getting out there and meeting people and talking about some of these elements of e-commerce and ticketing sales and personalization and things like that we're going to talk about in a minute are quite hard to sell into people when it's a challenging market. And it seemed like, well, that was our first date, and we thought that it could be a marriage made in heaven for the two of us, because Andy's got a lot of understanding of the sector and the needs and the challenges and who would benefit from this sort of technology. And I'm in the lucky position, after having merged Carbon 6 and Rubber Cheese, of having some of this technology that we could then develop. So it was a seed that grew from there, really, wasn't it, Andy?
Yeah, and he's carried on growing. The intent behind it all was that everything is just so disjointed at the moment. So if you're a big theme park with accommodation and a decent retail and decent catering, food and beverage offering, you're looking at 7 or 8 different systems that you need to run your business. And someone needs to plug all of those together to get a good guest experience. And unless you're the size of Merlin or Disney or Universal, with lots and lots of resource to apply to plugging these systems together, it just doesn't happen. Which is why we're still not delivering the best-in-class omni-channel experience to people who are coming out for a day out.
I think this is a really exciting conversation. And if I think back to some of the conversations that we were having prior to me leaving Rubber Cheese Pool, it was exactly it's exactly the challenge that they were having. I'm thinking back to a particular pitch where they had lots of different, they had there's a historic house, there was a playground, there was a golf course, there was a spa, there was a hotel, there was something else. And all of these things had so many different systems that were running them. And there wasn't really a way to facilitate bringing them all together. And that's the challenge, because that's exactly what they need. But they weren't of the scale to be able to invest in the infrastructure to be able to do that. But it is exactly what they needed. So is this thing that you've built, or in the process of building and developing, going to solve that problem for people?
That's the objective.
Whoa.
Where we are today.
That was a very guarded statement,
wasn't it?
That was a politician's answer. I think the answer that we were just groping for then was yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Excellent. It's exactly the answer that I wanted.
We're forming a company that we're calling CrowdConvert. And we'll put a link to the URL and website and all that kind of stuff in the show notes. And the objective behind CrowdConvert is that we will make this all work together. It's a journey. We don't have it today. It doesnn't exist. I worked for Merlin Entertainment from the Two Source Group for 18 years. Now, we had lots of resource in comparison to smaller attractions, but we still didn't make it happen. So it doesn't exist out there at the moment, and we're going to build it.
Okay. So we've got Andy, we've got an industry veteran. Hope you don't mind me.
Not at all.
Kind of makes you feel ancient, but you're not. But you've got all of this historic understanding and experience within the sector. Paul, yours is building. Obviously, we've built that over the years with Rubber Cheese. But you're the digital specialist that can come in and support facilitating building these. And you've both come together under the CrowdConvert name. So this is the new company that the two of you have formed.
Yeah.
One, I love the name. So I want to understand like how there's a story there. But what I want to get a little bit of a deeper understanding is, what is the offer? So what is the thing that you are actually building, and does that thing have a name at the moment, and what does it look like? So firstly, where did the name come from, CrowdConvert?
Weeks and weeks and weeks of effort. I hate choosing names for things. So hard. You come up with a brilliant idea and then you say it to your wife. Oh my God, you can't call it that. Or you come up with a name and then somebody's bought the domain name. And by the end of it, I was just like, please, somebody just put me out of my misery. I don't care what we choose.
It was actually the most torturous thing about getting this all together.
It always is.
There were a few others that came in very close second, but choosing the name and getting that together was really quite painful.
But it was the right process, because we were so happy with the result at the end of it.
Absolutely, but it seems, or it felt to me like, choosing the name when we actually got to that part of the process took 2 or 3 minutes. And if we'd have thought of that name right at the start, then would we have rejected it, or would we have carried on?
So you worked through the process, which means the name has more meaning. So what is the meaning behind it? What's the ethos between CrowdConvert? Like what?
We've reverse engineered this one a little bit. If you're in the world of attractions, you have a crowd. Hopefully you have a crowd. And as a visitor to an attraction, you want to be part of a crowd. You don't want to be the last person in the pub or the only person in the theatre, because that just feels weird. But as an attraction operator, I want to have a relationship with you. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you want. I want to give you a great experience. I want to give you a membership. If I'm a charitable organisation, I want to convert you to a donor. If I'm not, then I want to turn you into an advocate and a super fan. So CrowdConvert is giving you the tools to convert those crowds into individuals that you can create that know, like and trust relationship with.
That's nice. So you talk a lot on the website about kind of humanising that process, and I think it's taking it back to that kind of like one-on-one, that talking to people as individuals rather than talking to them as a mass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. That goes back to you don't want a ticketing system. Don't show me what goes in the sausage. Give me a great experience.
Mixing your metaphors there, but
I know.
Point well made.
You lost me at sausage. I'm so sorry. So I want to go back a little bit, Paul, to something that you said earlier about that this predates you and your part that you play in Rubber Cheese and your ownership of Rubber Cheese. So I'm going to make an assumption here that something that you're using is something that we already kind of started, but quite a long time ago. So we had like almost like a product at Rubber Cheese that was in the ticketing space. And if I'm honest, as a small agency, you only have so much resource to work on things that are for you. And ultimately, the things that were for us and for you, like the podcast and the survey and the report, always took priority. And that was an awful lot of work for an agency that was, before we merged, there were 6 or 7 of us. So, we weren't huge. We didn't have a whole lot of capacity and resource to give up to these things. But we did start to develop a product that kind of, we knew that it could be good, but we had to shelve it, and we just said, one day we might get investment, or one day we might be big enough that we could actually kind of focus on that. Yeah. It feels like that's the product that you're now.
That is definitely the great grandparent of the idea that we've got now.
I like that. I like that.
So there's two parts to some of the stuff that you had developed previously. Some of it was in the ticketing space. So for very, very small attractions, you developed a system that had an inventory of tickets that you could buy online, and it would issue the ticket, create a barcode, send it to them. But there was also a piece that you did that integrated with existing ticketing systems. And that's the area where I think my mind was going, is around building a best-in-class e-commerce experience, because people sat on the sofa on a Thursday night trying to decide what they're going to do at the weekend want to be able to find an attraction, get their tickets, and then carry on watching the telly. They want a quick and easy experience. We can build that experience. We know from the survey that, it's 9 steps on average to be able to complete an attraction's checkout, plus or minus a couple of steps. So there's ones that are even worse. That checkout experience is torturous in many cases. They will want to know they'll want to know when you're coming, what time you're coming, what type of ticket you want to buy. They want to know who's coming, the names, possibly the email addresses of all of your guests that you're bringing with you. They'll want to know what your home address is, what your billing address is. They'll then want to sell you a guidebook. They might upsell or cross-sell some other products along the way. And that's how you end up with 12 steps in a process that just feels torturous. I had one last year where they even made me enter a password for a site I was never going to return to, and told me off twice for getting the password wrong. The process that many attractions go through to make you buy, it's a wonder anybody ever perseveres. Yeah. And what's stopping us from achieving an Amazon-like 1 or 2 click experience? Yeah. How can we go from that really extreme version down to something really simple and quick? And we've proven that it is possible to do that. It's possible to get down to a couple of clicks. And we do that. I know, you look surprised.
Yeah, well, yes, I am surprised, but also quite excited by that, because that is one of the issues that has come up year after year after year in the visitor attraction, website report, is the amount of steps and the aggravation it causes people, but also the cost that it could save attractions.
Yep.
I mean, you said 9 steps. I thought we were about to say between 7 and 9 steps is about the average, right?
Yeah.
So we know that can cost attractions a huge amount in lost revenue. I think I'm just going back to the 2022 report, but it was something like 250k for one of our best performing attractions.
Absolutely.
But it's also tied to, that excessive amounts of CO2 emissions, which I know you've focused on really heavily for the current report. So you're saying that the product that you're building could essentially take those average steps down to 2.
Yeah.
It's not could, it does.
It does, yeah. So the way that we do that is a number of different core principles, yeah. So we are not going to ask you for anything we do not need in order to affect the transaction, yeah. We are only going to ask you to share the data we absolutely need to complete the transaction. We are going to start to make some assumptions about you through personalization technology. We will know roughly where you are and how far you are away from the transaction. If you're within an hour's distance of the place, chances are, if you're looking on Thursday night, probably looking for this weekend. If you're on a different continent, you might be planning for a long-term holiday. Yeah. Well, if we know that you're quite local, let's assume the date that you want to travel based on our understanding of average behaviour of people at that particular attraction, and then let people change it if it's not right. Yeah. Another thing Andy talks about a lot is not overselling. So a lot of ticketing systems are trying to upsell, cross-sell, and increase the average order value, but by cannibalizing the conversion rate. Yeah. And you talk, Andy, don't you, about the maitre d' at the restaurant?
Yeah, so it's like comparing McDonald's experience to going to a fine dining place. So if I'm in the McDonald's world, I have to choose what drink I want, what dessert I'm going to have, what main course I'm going to have, all at the same point. And it's a really artificial transaction. It's almost like if you were walking into a fine dining restaurant with the maitre d' at the front going, welcome, Andy, come in, lovely to see you. Can you tell me what you'd like for your starter, for your main course, for dessert? Would you like coffee after dessert? Would you like a liqueur after the coffee? We still haven't got to the table. And that's where we are with attractions upsells, because we believe, mistakenly in my opinion, that that's the only opportunity that we've got to sell a guidebook or the teddy bear or whatever to the guest who's coming. We should stop all of that, because it's stopping the transaction, it's interrupting the transaction, adding extra steps and causing people to leave.
It's a really good point. I mean, I actually have in the past have advocated for adding in upsells in that journey. And because I have often been like, well, yeah, actually, it's a really good opportunity for people to sell a little bit more, you know, whether it's a guidebook, whether it's an experience, whatever that might be. So what would you say to people who they still want to do that? Is that, are we then talking about, you know, there's options for you to do that, or actually that becomes part of the pre-visit communication, so it funnels down into like emails, comms and stuff?
It's both options, really. For an upsell to work really well, it needs to be at the time where it's most appropriate. So back to the restaurant analogy, offering me a coffee at the point I walk in the door is completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
Offering me a coffee after I've had a great meal and I'm feeling quite full and quite happy with myself is entirely the appropriate time to offer me the coffee. So let's make the offers on the upsells appropriate to the time and to the guest. So if you're an attraction that charges for car parking, for example, it might be that 9 o'clock in the morning on the day of visit, when the family are just getting in the car to travel to the venue, is the most appropriate time to offer the car parking upsell, not at the point where I'm buying the ticket. It might be if you've got a VIP upgrade experience. So if you're a water park, there's a cabana you can have. If you're a theme park, it's a fast track experience. If you're a museum, then there's a guided tour. That upsell VIP type experience, you offer 48 hours before the day of visit.
Sure.
Memberships are another great thing. So there's still the majority of first-time membership purchases are made as the consumer is leaving the attraction. Had a great day out, get today's entry feedback against your membership. And that's still go and join this queue with kids who are overtired and a little bit disappointed because they're leaving. And I'm stressed because I'm tired as well, and I've got a long drive home, and then I've got to work out what we're going to do for dinner when we get in. There's all these negatives. Don't try and sell me a membership then. Sell me the membership for the next 7 days. And hit me up with lots of different messages through appropriate channels. So it might be that a WhatsApp message on the way home offering me a really simple way of upgrading to a membership is the most appropriate that time. But it might be that 9 o'clock on Monday morning, when we can assume that a lot of people are going to be sitting behind a desk, then it's the most appropriate to send me an email.
Okay.
And then again Thursday, when I'm thinking about what I'm going to be doing this weekend coming, remind me of the great experience I had and give me an opportunity then. So just make it much more human.
It makes sense. And there's something that I've been able to have a sneak peek of the CrowdConvert website. So we'll talk a little bit later about where people can find out a little bit more about you. But I've been able to have a little look at that. And there's something that you talk about, which is about rehumanising commerce. And there's a really lovely story on there that you talk about, which is the shopkeeper's wisdom. And I read that. I was like, this is really nice, because the local shop is, or did, sit at the epicenter of the community at one point. And I have got really vivid memories. So we lived on a little estate near my school in Essex, and across the road from us was the corner shop. And it was where everything happened. You know, like it was the post office. It was where you got your papers, where you got your sweets. At one point, it's where you got your videos, not your DVDs, because they did not exist. You know, you got your VHS cassettes, and you could go and rent. You know, everything kind of happened there, and they knew you, they knew your family, they knew your mum and dad, they knew your names. You know, and it was just quite a wholesome experience. And you talk about that, the shopkeeper's wisdom. So you say, you know, the local shopkeeper knew everything there was to know about their customers, and that is kind of taking it back to that level. That's what this feels like.
And that's completely where we're trying to get to. We don't want to get to the level of creepiness where people are getting all upset about what and we don't want to be intrusive. But we have a great opportunity in the attraction space. Our customers want to engage with us. They're going because they enjoy what we do. They're going to see us because they want to experience the thing that we're doing. It's not like we're selling insurance or car tires that you just got to have and it's really tedious. People want to engage. So let's make it easy for them to do that.
Okay, so we're doing that by making it quicker for them and less friction to buy a ticket in the first place, communicating with them at the appropriate times and in the ways that they want to be communicated to, and offering them, because we don't want to stop offering people extra things, but we're doing it we're doing it in the way and at the time that's appropriate for that audience.
We're absolutely convinced that moving some of these upsells and cross-sell opportunities to later in your relationship will increase the likelihood of you closing the deal. Don't cannibalize the conversion rate at the initial conversation. You haven't built a trust relationship with someone, so don't keep throwing options at them. It's just too much. I'm a simple boy. If I go to a restaurant, I want a really simple menu, 3 or 4 things, and I'll make a choice. If you give me too many options, I'll just sit there and I won't be able to decide. And I think that's what we do when we present people with 9 steps, and we want to know the email address of everybody. We want to know the postcode of where they live because we want to be able to market to them. And that's important, but there are other better ways of being able to identify where somebody is other than using their postcode and making them type something in. They don't need that hassle.
So this is all about the e-commerce journey, stepping back a little bit closer to what Rubber Cheese do, and the DNA behind Rubber Cheese is making attractions websites work really well. And it's back to the point about things being disconnected and attraction operators having to plug them together. How many websites are there, or how many attraction e-commerce journeys are there where you click on the button to buy a ticket and you're taken to a different page? And that different page can have a completely different look and feel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a massive bugbear. It's been a bugbear of mine for years.
But how many websites do you have where I can be sitting there looking at the tulip experience that's coming up? We heard lots of that and a couple of stuff at the end fan conference. I'm on the tulips page, but then you take me to a page where I've got to pick the date that I want to visit. I've already told you, I'm on the tulip page. I want to come and see tulips. I'm not interested in Father Christmas.
I'm just all about the tulips.
Yeah. So don't make me choose twice.
Okay, so I want to play devil's advocate here because I'm sitting here listening to this going, this sounds great. I'm going back to what Andy said about, attractions. They don't really want a ticketing system. They don't really care about the system. They just want it to work, right? I get that. But there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this podcast going, another bloody ticketing system. There's a lot, right? Let's face it. It is a busy space. And if you are an attraction sitting here going, oh my God, all right, look, we know that another one, we know what we've got isn't working for us. We've got workarounds. We're doing what we can with what we already have. But, ultimately we can't grow with what we have and we know we need to change it. This is a big task. Right, your ticketing system is often embedded so deeply into your organisation that the process of selecting a new one and then implementing that change is so vast and overwhelming that people think, all right, we just won't bother. That's why we've got these workarounds in place. Or 2, they're overwhelmed with choice. And yes, I know there's specialists out there. We've worked with a couple that will help you go through that process and select the right partners for you. But if someone like me is sitting here going, okay, why do I come to CrowdConvert? Like, why is this? What is it the thing that your product is going to be stand out for, that is going to sit above, or is going to solve the problems that I've got above all of the other options that I've got out there?
So this is back to the comment earlier about this being a concept, an ethos, a philosophy. Our business will grow through either building solutions acquiring other solutions that have already been built, or selecting partners to integrate with, and we will do the whole integration. So it doesn't matter what ticketing system you're using that you have today. If you want the better digital experience for your guests, we will integrate to your current ticketing system.
Okay, so you're taking the pain of having to change something that's deeply embedded in your organisation and almost putting a layer on top of that will actually facilitate this better customer interaction purchasing process.
Absolutely.
Without the need for all of the stressful change.
Do away with the whole monolithic solution that solves the operation of the entire business and start to turn it into Lego bricks. I want a Lego brick for my website. I want a Lego brick for my ticketing. I want my Lego brick for my e-commerce experience. I want my Lego brick for my online shop. We'll either build or acquire those Lego bricks or partner with the best of breed Lego bricks that exist. Other building blocks are available. And we will help to plug those together and make them work effectively. But you can imagine, I always talk about, we've talked a lot about ticketing today, but whenever I talk to somebody about ticketing, changing your ticketing system is like open heart surgery on the business. It's something you don't necessarily do casually, although I have met people who have changed it casually. It's often so difficult because it's so deeply ingrained across the entire operation. But if you start to, it's a horrible, boring technical term. If you start to build this composable set of systems that can plug together, then it becomes easier. If you plug in an e-commerce online ticketing solution, and it plugs into your current ticketing system, well then later on when you change that ticketing system, you won't necessarily have to change the online experience in order to be able to do that. We'll be able to plug into the new one that you choose. It makes it easier for you to chop and change things and become less dependent on one single monolithic provider.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? I think the path to dream has been one system that does everything, and suddenly that one system goes down and you're absolutely screwed.
That's not the way the world works anymore. The consumer world, I'm using the analogy of a TV. I got a new TV a few weeks ago, out the box, and turned it on. And I was presented on screen with an option to get the remote control for my new TV to operate other devices in my house. And my kids could have set it up.
Danger.
Absolutely. Why is integration so difficult? And that's the way that the world is going. If you look at credit card processing, 2-3 years ago, to be able to accept a payment by credit card, you had to sign into a 5-year agreement with the credit card provider. I was in my local Wix yesterday and I could have bought a credit card terminal off the shelf. It was sitting on the shelf next to the sweets at the checkout. For 50 quid, I could have taken it home, unboxed it, and I would be processing credit card transactions there and then. I'm not signing into a 3-year agreement. If I don't like it, I can take it back and get one in pink because I prefer pink to white. It's got to be much easier. The world is becoming much easier. The technology world is becoming much easier. To make these things work together. So you won't need clever people like Paul to make it all work together. CrowdConvert.
I'll be on the golf course, won't I?
Do you play golf?
No. Never played golf in my life. Crazy golf.
I don't think so. I like the analogy. I like the Lego brick analogy. I like this whole kind of the concept that it's like plug and play, but you haven't got you're using the base of what you already have, but you can pop these things as part of it. That feels really understandable for people to get their head around the concept of what you're doing.
But still totally integrated. What we don't want is the solution that is at an attraction that we've been to recently, where to get in you have to go through different turnstiles depending on whether you've got a day ticket or a membership ticket, because the two different sets of systems can't talk to the same turnstile at the same time. And so then you need double the staff to be able to man the turnstiles.
And confusion, and it ruins that whole first impact of arrival because you don't know. Yeah, okay.
But we're exposing our dirty laundry to the consumer. Why? They don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to them what ticketing system you've got.
There's the vision. And the vision is becoming reality as well.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So there is a website that I've had privy to, and the product is in its, should we say it's in its infancy at the moment, and it's being developed. So this is the time that you'll be having, I guess you'll be having conversations with people about what that product, you're almost building it for the people, right? You're having conversations with them about what this is what we see happening. This is how we see it. But
that's exactly what we do.
What are your needs? Okay, cool. So can people get involved with that process?
Exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyone can talk to Andy. He'll talk to anybody.
It's true, he will.
I won't. I just get locked in a cupboard and told to design things.
Make it work. Plug it together.
Okay, so I've got a few questions about what this means. What does this mean for rubber cheese? What does this mean for rubber cheese? What does this mean for Skip the Queue? What does this mean for the report initiatives that we do? Where does that, I guess that's all still happening?
Yeah, absolutely. No changes to rubber cheese at all. This is part of a wider, bigger family that rubber cheese is part of, and looking at different parts of the attraction operating experience. Yeah, so rubber cheese is going to carry on its almost single-minded focus on websites that enable people to get to the buy button. Yeah, getting them from being interested in the attraction to hitting that buy now button or get your ticket button. Yeah, that's our specialty, and that will remain our specialty. The job of CrowdConvert then is to convert.
Pick up from that point. That's
Absolutely.
Lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
And that's where the build, acquire, and partner comes in. So there will be other organisations, other tools that we partner with and plug together. And that's the bit that CrowdConvert does. It's almost the umbrella, the glue that glues all of these things together.
Okay, so what more do our listeners need to understand about CrowdConvert? And how can they get involved? How can they be part of this conversation to define what this product actually looks like and does for them?
So we're launching the website. You can find Paul and me on LinkedIn. We've got a bunch of events and exhibition shows that we're going to be at over the next few months, where we're actively going to be asking people to get involved. If you are interested, then pick up the phone and drop us an email. We'll have a chat.
Okay.
Contact at crowdconvert.co.uk.
I was going to say, we need the domain name in there. crowdconvert.co.uk is the place to go. Go and have a look, find out, have a little bit of a read through about the site. It's designed in a really nice way. I think that what I really liked as I was reading it through was kind of this real focus on building something for the greater good. It's not just another ticketing platform. It's not just about, it really is about working with the attractions to build something that is it just works, and it works for them in the way they need it to, and it works for the visitors in the way they need it to.
And that's it completely. It's about putting the guest at the centre of everything we're doing, and looking at this from the consumer's perspective. And does it make sense, or am I going to have to work out where I bought my ticket so I know whether I go through the right-hand turnstiles or the left-hand turnstiles? That's just rubbish.
Yeah. Okay, great. So website is launching.
It is launched. It's up and running.
It's out there, all right. It's out there in the world already. So that's where you go, listeners, if you want to find out more about what's happening. And I would really recommend booking a call with Andy, booking a call with Paul, talking through, if anything that we've talked about today has made you feel quite excited about what the prospect of this product could potentially be, book a call with them. I mean, listen, if you're seeing Andy at a conference, you just need to look up. and you'll find him. Or maybe that's just me.
Me, not so much.
Oh, it's just me. Okay. Listen, I always finish off my podcasts with a book recommendation for our listeners. So I'd like to ask you both if you've prepared a book today. Andy, what do you have for us?
So I pondered this for quite a while because I was expecting it. And I think it's the third or fourth you've asked me for. So I'm actually not going to recommend a book at all. I told you that I've given up on podcasts earlier on. And I've found Audible.
Okay.
So at the moment, the thing that's occupying all of my attention is Dare the Triffids on Audible, which is fantastic escapism from everything that's going off in the world at the moment.
That's nice. Actually, that's really good. But audiobooks are really good for long drives that we were talking about earlier. They're quite good. I got into, sorry, Paul, I'll come to you in a minute, but this is my podcast.
It's all about you.
It's all about me today. I really got into just before the pandemic and during it, there was a BBC podcast called The Lovecraft. What is it called? The Lovecraft's Tales. I'm gonna have to check this on my.
Sorry, listeners. She's out of practice on this, so.
I am out of practice. Apologies, but you know me. The Lovecraft Investigations. Don't know if anyone had listened to it.
No.
It's brilliant. It's based on it's loosely based on Lovecraft books, but it was quite it's about supernatural. But what I really enjoyed about it was linked to like local places that I kind of knew, like Rettendon Forest, and there was a lot of kind of like Norfolk, Suffolk, and Dunwich and stuff, and. That was they're really good for like long drives as well because you can really get into something on like a 2 or 3 hour journey. So I totally with you on the Triffids thing. So I did bring it back to Andy in the end. Paul, what have you prepared?
I am an absolute fan of classic British crime novels. Love an Agatha Christie. Love a mystery of some sort. But I'm not going to recommend an Agatha Christie one. I'm going to recommend one that I've got on Audible as well that I found originally from Audible, and it's one of the British Library classic British crime series where they're republishing stuff from like the 20s and 30s, and it's called The Wintrington Mystery. Anthony Barclay. It's a classic whodunit in it's a kind of lock room mystery in a massive stately home. It's just like a Poirot novel, but it's not Poirot. It's a different one, but I love it. It's a brilliant book.
When you find stuff like that, it's really comforting, isn't it? It's like a warm hug and a cup of tea.
Yeah, love it.
Lovely. Well, do our listeners still get to win copies of those books?
They do,
even though they're audiobooks.
Yeah, but they don't do it on X anymore because who wants to be posting on X? So, listeners, if you'd like a copy of well, no, you can't have a copy. Well, I can do a copy of Andy's book on Audible. Or mine on Audible or on paperback, then go over to Blue Sky and repost the show notes where Wenlyn has announced the podcast, and the first person that does that will get a copy of the book.
Lovely. Well, it has been an absolute treat to be back on the podcast today.
You're not coming back ever again.
It's been a treat.
What?
It's all mine. It's mine now.
Let me come back. Please. Anything that we talked about today will, as ever, be in the show notes. So you'll find links to the CrowdConvert website. You'll find links to Paul and Andy's LinkedIn profiles and email addresses, however best to get in touch with them. But I highly recommend having a chat with them. Can I just say, because it is all about me, I've been very sad to not be part of the podcast moving forward, but I've also been really thrilled that you have taken complete and utter ownership of it. So while I'm on here, and it is about me, I just wanted to congratulate you for taking over and making it your own, because you really needed to do that, and it's brilliant to see, and I've loved listening to the episodes. I think the bravery in doing some of the live ones has been immense.
Stupidity.
So, well, maybe a tad, but
we won't talk about what happened at NFAN last week, please. Let's not talk about that.
What happens in Blackpool stays in Blackpool. Next
time I come on the podcast, I'm going to make you spill that as a guilty confession.
But do you know what? I absolutely loved it. I came back afterwards and I listened to that episode, and it's the first one where I really thoroughly enjoyed listening to the conversation. I'm finding my feet. It's only taken me a couple of years.
Well, it only took me a couple of years as well, but you're there now and it's brilliant. So well done. I genuinely think that you're doing an excellent job, and I'm very glad that I got to hand the baton over to you and you're doing it differently.
Well, you can just come back as a guest star.
It was more a every blend, wasn't it, than a handover?
It's mine.
I think it was a here you go, dumped on your lap.
Yeah. Thank you for coming back and talking to us. It's been marvellous.
Thank you for having me back. I've loved every minute.
Thanks for listening to Skip the Queue. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others to find us. Skip the Queue is brought to you by Rubber Cheese, a digital agency that builds remarkable systems and websites for attractions that helps them to increase their visitor numbers. You can find show notes and transcripts from this episode and more over on our website, skipthequeue.fm.